Tonight, passing the torch.
It's time again for a new generation of leadership.
Barack Obama is tapped as the candidate to continue the Kennedy legacy. And John McCain and Mitt Romney are locked in a heated battle under the Florida sun for the biggest delegate prize yet. I'm Katie Couric in Washington. Also tonight, the president's final State of the Union address. He urges Congress to act quickly to jumpstart the economy, declares war on earmarks, and says stay the course in Iraq. Meanwhile, you can't get any closer to the action. An exclusive look at a firefight in Mosul. And another CBS News exclusive. The CDC was warned about the danger of those toxic FEMA trailers, but kept everyone, including those living in them, in the dark.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric reporting tonight from Washington.
Good evening, everyone. In a short while, President Bush will leave the White House and head there to the Capitol to deliver his 7th and final State of the Union address. We'll tell you what he plans to say a bit later, but first, who will deliver the next State of the Union? We're just 8 days away from Super Tuesday, when voters will go to the polls in nearly half the states. More than 1,600 Democratic delegates and more than 1,000 Republican are up for grabs. Today, Barack Obama won the support of a Democratic dynasty. Here's Jeff Greenfield.
It was a moment packed with political significance. Ted and Caroline Kennedy, the surviving brother and child of a revered Democratic president, declaring that the torch has been passed.
Fortunately, there is one candidate who offers that same sense of hope and inspiration.
I know what America can achieve. I've seen it. I've lived it. And with Barack Obama, we can do it again.
And while he had kind words for Hillary Clinton, Ted Kennedy took dead aim at one of her core arguments.
I know that he's ready to be president on day one.
We've gone through almost a half century of Democrats looking for the next Kennedy. And for Barack Obama to lay claim to that mantle is a pretty big event.
When Bill Clinton ran in 1992, he laid claim to that mantle. His campaign showcased this image of a teenage Clinton shaking hands with President Kennedy.
I want to say...
But the former president is facing an issue beyond the Kennedy endorsement. His increasing visibility on the campaign trail, seen by the Clinton campaign as a powerful asset, may be turning into something of a liability.
Shame on you.
Thanks, guys.
Shame on you.
Critics suggested he was trying to diminish Obama's South Carolina landslide by referencing an earlier campaign by a black candidate.
Jesse Jackson won South Carolina twice, in '84 and '88.
While Hillary Clinton chalks it up to family loyalty, some of her strongest supporters worry privately that Clinton is reinforcing an old stereotype that women aren't tough enough to fight their own battles. Kennedy plans to campaign with Obama in key Super Tuesday states like California. And for Democrats, Kennedy's link to a storied past is his strongest asset, says pollster Garin.
Ted Kennedy is somebody who speaks to a certain generation of Democrats among whom Barack Obama had not been doing very well. And so for that generation, all of a sudden you have the best of the good housekeeping seals of approval.
But keep in mind, Katie, Obama has a lot of ground to pick up in the next 8 days. Senator Clinton holds wide leads in almost all of those states. But if you're the Clinton campaign, you might wish that Super Tuesday was tomorrow. Katie.
And Jeff, as is often the case in families, not all the Kennedys agree. Robert F. Kennedy's children are backing Senator Clinton.
Yeah, 3 of them are. And we also need to put this endorsement in context. Clinton has lots of endorsements from Democratic core constituencies, the Latino community, and the labor unions. As far as Clinton goes, from what I've been hearing today, some of her supporters would like her to suggest to Bill that he try the decaf. Katie?
Good advice for many of us. Jeff Greenfield. Jeff, thanks so much. Now moving on to the Republicans. Their next big primary showdown is tomorrow in Florida. 57 delegates, winner take all. Polls show it's close between John McCain and Mitt Romney, but keep in mind Florida has early voting and nearly 500,000 GOP votes have already been cast. Byron Pitts is in Miami. Byron?
Katie, that early voting you talked about is key to Giuliani's campaign to close the gap. But at this point, this looks like a two-man race, McCain-Romney.
How important is Florida?
Senator John McCain canceled plans to attend tonight's State of the Union address in Washington so he could crisscross Florida and attack Mitt Romney at every stop.
One thing I think we should really give Governor Romney credit for, he is consistent. He's consistently taken both sides of any major issue. He is consistently flip-flopped on every issue.
Here in a state where conservatives make up the majority of the Republican Party, McCain sought to paint Romney as the liberal governor from Massachusetts. For his part, Romney gave as good as he got.
I don't think McCain's a Democrat, but, you know, I do. But I do recall, am I wrong? I do recall a story that he was thinking about being John Kerry's running mate. He gave that some thought.
And then there's Rudy Giuliani. Florida is his last stand. Trouble is, for his campaign, it's also his first. If you don't win in Florida, how do you go forward?
Look, we're going to win in Florida. You don't.
What if you don't?
Oh, well, my goodness, before an election, you don't talk about what happens if. You talk about winning the election.
Tonight, Giuliani has changed his tone a bit, saying he will reevaluate on Wednesday. But Katie, most agree it's hard to see how he goes forward unless he can win in Florida.
All right, Byron Pitts in Miami tonight. Byron, thanks a lot. Now to the current president. George W. Bush has 358 days left in office. As he delivers his final State of the Union address tonight, 3 out of 4 Americans believe the country is heading in the wrong direction. Jim Axelrod, our chief White House correspondent, will be covering the address tonight. And Jim, I know the president will be covering a lot of ground. Do you think any of his goals can actually be accomplished?
Well, Katie, that number you just mentioned means the time for bold proposals is past for President George Bush, and his final State of the Union address will be his most modest.
The President of the United States.
The president will walk down the aisle and address a teetering economy right off the bat. Mr. Bush will say, at kitchen tables across our country, there's concern about our economic future. In the long run, Americans can be confident about our economic growth.
You go there to hit the big issues, and right now the economy is the big issue.
Mr. Bush will call on Congress to pass the stimulus package, especially now that Senate Democrats are threatening to delay the bipartisan agreement reached by leaders of the House by adding more spending. Foreign policy will focus on Iraq, reminding Congress that his troop surge has successfully decreased violence in Iraq, and promising to now push the Iraqis to make political progress.
It's really a pat on his own back that the surge worked. Now, he's got to be careful if something goes wrong a month later, and again, at this being trapped, but that's the energy he wants to convey.
Mr. Bush will revisit one issue from last year's State of the Union that he feels Congress hasn't dealt with: earmarks. Money for personal pet projects that members of Congress slip into spending bills. He's going to call for earmarks to be cut in half. Katie?
Jim Axelrod at the White House. Bob Schieffer is our chief Washington correspondent and anchor of Face the Nation. And Bob, earlier today at the White House, the president told us he was fired up and ready to go and wanted to challenge Congress not only on this economic stimulus package, but on things like immigration reform and other legislative initiatives. Do you think Congress is in any mood to cooperate?
Apparently not. We talked to Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, today, and we said the president is planning to challenge you on immigration, and she said, poor baby. That was the direct quote. She said, look, it's his own party that's abandoned him on immigration. We can't help. We talked about the stimulus package. She said the Senate, Senator Reid, the leader in the Senate, said he's going to try to add some stuff to that. Just everywhere you turn, the Democrats were very, very skeptical.
Meanwhile, you know, the president told us as well that there would not be a lick of nostalgia in the State of the Union address, sort of not weepy at all. How would you describe his state of mind before the final address?
I thought he was very upbeat, frankly, more upbeat than I would have suspected. But the interesting thing was I told Speaker Pelosi about that. I said, he says no nostalgia. He's looking straight ahead.
He thinks a lot can be done.
And I said, what are your emotions? She said, I'm just glad it's his last State of the Union speech. So there you go.
Oh, boy. All right. Bob Schieffer. Bob, thanks so much. CBS News will, of course, bring you the State of the Union address as well as the Democrats' response. Our live coverage begins at 9 Eastern, 8 Central. Now, an exclusive follow-up to our investigation that revealed that thousands of Katrina victims are living in toxic trailers. More than 143,000 families have lived in the FEMA trailers. Nearly 41,000 still do. As we've reported, FEMA's been under heavy fire for not addressing the health issues involved. Now it turns out the scandal may reach beyond FEMA to yet another government agency. Here's our chief investigative correspondent, Armin Katayan.
CBS News has learned that the Centers for Disease Control, the nation's top public health agency, suppressed repeated warnings from one of its top scientists, raising questions about whether the CDC bowed to pressure from FEMA to conceal the long-term health risks of formaldehyde in trailers like this.
And one baby on the way.
Health risks like cancer and birth defects. A string of internal documents obtained exclusively by CBS News reveal that Dr. Christopher DeRosa, director of the CDC's Division of Toxicology and Environmental Medicine, told his superiors that there is no safe level of exposure to formaldehyde in trailers, a warning that never made its way into any public report about the trailers. In addition, Dr. DeRosa wrote in this email that 2 of his staff members had been directed by FEMA officials to not address longer-term health effects of formaldehyde in this February 2007 report.
To not do its due diligence on this issue borders on malfeasance.
In fact, it wasn't until October 2007, after 8 months and pressure from congressional investigators, that the CDC revised its February report and finally issued warnings about cancer and other long-term health risks of formaldehyde.
For them to punt on this issue does not speak well for them as an agency.
Dr. DeRosa refused an on-camera interview with CBS News. The CDC did not comment on the documents, but said they changed the report after they learned there was a problem, Katie.
And Armin, when will the people who are still living in these trailers be moved out? And have there been any attempts to study the long-term health effects?
Well, the first one is a very good question. Nobody really knows when the rest of these people are going to get moved out of the trailers. The CDC finished its final testing last Friday. That report is due next month. But right now, nobody has a handle on the long-term impact in these health problems, Katie.
All right, great work, Armin. Thank you so much. There is much more CBS News ahead, including the sometimes dangerous combination of children and cough medicine. But up next, far from home, dramatic images from the front lines. U.S. forces in a major showdown with al-Qaeda in Iraq. This was a deadly day for American soldiers in Iraq. 5 were killed in the northern city of Mosul when their patrol hit a roadside bomb and was then fired on by insurgents. U.S. commanders say Mosul is the last big Iraqi city under al-Qaeda's grip. American and Iraqi forces are beginning a major offensive to change that. Our Mark Strassman is on the front lines and has this exclusive report.
On the streets of Mosul, chaos can explode at any second. Here, a U.S. patrol is attacked in a city that's under fire. Video of this firefight, obtained exclusively by CBS News, was recorded by a camera mounted on a U.S. soldier's helmet. American big guns arrive, attack helicopters, and Bradley fighting vehicles. Mosul's become insurgent central in Iraq, al-Qaeda's base of money and foreign fighters. In recent weeks, much of Iraq, especially Baghdad, is quieter, safer. Insurgents have cut and run. Not in Mosul. 5,000 U.S. troops sweep a city of almost 2 million scared people. Captain Hunter Bauer's Lightning Troop patrols the city's west side, its worst side.
The city is just so unpredictable that way.
Yes, sir. It's very unpredictable. Like I said, one day, one area can be fine one day, and the next day, it can be the worst area you've ever been in.
Fighting could last for months.
The main thing is for us to just be close to you.
Bowers and this Iraqi army commander are now seeing insurgents surface here.
So right now, it is a capital for terrorists, I think so now. So I am sure it will be a final battle very soon.
So U.S. soldiers are always looking. They have to.
Looking for wires, weapons, anything.
Right.
Yeah.
The potential threat could be anywhere.
They'll put a machine gun in here, and they'll flip the back seat around and fire out the back.
One U.S. soldier said, in Mosul, there are no good areas, only degrees of bad. Mark Strassman, CBS News, Mosul, Iraq.
In France, preliminary charges were filed today against the rogue stock trader Jerome Kerviel. He was whisked to court under tight security but later released. He's charged with breach of trust and unauthorized computer activity, but not fraud. Kerviel's accused of costing a French bank more than $7 billion through secret trades that went bad. Coming up next, new concerns about a common medicine that sends thousands of kids to the ER every year. Some alarming news today about kids and cough and cold medicines. They send about 7,000 children under the age of 12 to the ER every year. Most are kids between 2 and 5. Dr. John LaPook has more in tonight's Eye on Medicine.
Today's report suggests childproof medicine bottles may not be so childproof. The CDC report in the journal Pediatrics says 2/3 of the children taken to the emergency room took the medicine without their caregiver knowing it. The most severe side effects included sleepiness, difficulty walking, and hives. But most kids went home fine.
A lot of the over-the-counter and pediatric medications are intended to taste good so that parents don't have to struggle with them to take the medication. So it's very important that parents keep these medications outside of the reach of the child.
The CDC recommends parents stop telling children these medicines taste good. The agency is also calling for more secure packaging.
Good. Perfect.
Erin Roy has decided chicken soup is the best medicine for her daughter, Asha.
I mean, you worry about effects of any medication on such a little person, on such a little body, where there's so many unknowns probably on how medication actually affects them.
The FDA has already banned cold medicines for children under 2.
Today's news may increase the pressure to extend that ban to kids under the age of 6, especially because there's no proof these medicines actually help them. Dr. John LaPook, CBS News, New York.
Meanwhile, is the sky falling? U.S. scientists fear a spy satellite that lost power is heading back to Earth. The satellite apparently contains toxic fuel. When it gets within 59 miles of Earth, sometime in the next 2 months, it's expected to burst into flames with particles then raining down. Where it will fall, though, is anyone's guess. Up next, the home of tomorrow today, the amazing technology that may help the elderly live longer on their own. Finally tonight, everyone knows there's no place like home, but there's really no place quite like the home you're about to see. A high-tech habitat designed to help more elderly Americans live on their own safely. Daniel Seberg has tonight's Eye on Technology.
For Sandy Davis and her 89-year-old mother, Margaret,
come here, sweetie.
The idea of growing old together comes with both comfort and fear.
My brother wants us to move to an assisted care program. But I don't want to.
Sandy is convinced their age-old problem could be improved with some new age ideas.
The technology is there. We just need to figure out how we can orchestrate it so that we can live comfortably.
And that's exactly what Professor Gregory Aboud of Georgia Tech is trying to do in this experimental home, full of high-tech tools to help the elderly. For example, motion detectors throughout the house track a resident's daily movements and send them to an unobtrusive photo frame in any relative's home that's connected to the internet.
If it's a circle, there's no activity recorded. Small butterfly, a little bit of activity. Big butterfly, a lot of activity.
Tap on the screen and it reveals a detailed hourly snapshot.
So you're able to see if she was spending more time in the kitchen or in the living room.
Having memory problems, like the name of the person you just met?
Hi, I'm Gregory. You are?
Daniel.
Daniel, nice to meet you.
This cell phone automatically records the last 10 minutes of every conversation.
I'm Gregory. You are? Daniel, nice to meet you.
Another handy invention.
This is, in a sense, a futuristic medicine cabinet.
Yes.
A tiny chip in a drug label, referred to as a tag, meant to track whether someone has taken their regular medications.
The tray here knows when that tag is present and when it's away.
The computer keeps a record of it and can share information like this with relatives elsewhere, which in Sandy's case might put loved ones more at ease.
My brother would probably calm down because then he would have access to see what we're doing and what's going on in our household.
Researchers say these and other experiments are still about 5 years away from the market. But if Sandy and her mother can wait to join the digital generation, they might be able to stay right where they are. Daniel Seberg, CBS News, Atlanta.
And that's the CBS Evening News. I'll be back to bring you the President's State of the Union address at 9 Eastern, 8 Central. I'm Katie Couric in Washington. This beautiful view of the Capitol from the offices of the Jones Day Law Firm. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again soon.